Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by the garden today. I just want to go over some earthworm castings. So we bought a huge bag from the store. It's 12 pounds and it's nothing but organic earthworm casting, which is worm poo. We find this all around our garden. The worms create an actual organic matter with their poop mixed in with the soil in your garden. So it's really important to put homemade compost or a really good organic raised bed mix in your garden, because it gives you natural earthworm castings. But if you don't have a lot and you need some, there are bags you can buy. This I got from the Tractor Supply store. It was only $14.99, so 15 bucks, and I got a big 12-pound bag. Now the way you want to use this is you can use it on anything you want. So you can use it on this big citronella plant. As you can see, she's getting just so big. Between the earthworm castings, the nutrients, I topped the top of the plant off to stop her growth, and so she can continue branching out to get a nice bushy plant. Now you can use these in anything you want. Regular house plants, it really helps them keep healthy. You can use a tablespoon or two per container like this, mix it in the top like we did here. Now this was regular soil up top, which really wasn't too good. I want to show you what this looked like before. So this soil is from my sage, which I put on the side because we're going to transplant outside. It's getting too big for the container. And this is the potting soil that was in there, and you can see how light it is. That means your nutrients are starting to become out of the soil because your plant's sucking them up so much. So this is what you're supposed to look like because we added it in our basil. We put some of those earthworm castings on the top of the basil, on the base around each plant, and you can see how pretty and healthy this basil is. We have no bugs. We're treating with neem oil to prevent any bug infestations we might get. There's just some soil on there, earthworm castings. We have another little basil popping up and another one. So we just put like a tablespoon of this in and we mix it in the top. We don't want to disturb the roots too much, and then you can water it in. And we're going to go out in the garden. You can do this to any house plants as well. We'll go over to Nephitis because we're going to do it on those. Alright you guys, so we got our little earthworm castings in our cup here, and you can see just how good they look. That is what they're supposed to look like. There's nothing bad in there, and that's what you find on the top of your soil. So what you want to do, we're going to bring it over to our nice Nephitis plant right here in our lavender. And this Nephitis is just getting so big for this pot, but I can really use some nice organic matter in here. So what we're going to do is pick up the leaves like this, and we're going to put it in there. So let me see if I can hold you guys up. You guys are actually holding the leaves for me with the camera. Just sprinkle a little bit around each side. Go around all the sides of the container. And then what you're going to do, I don't want to shake you guys too much, is just rub it in there. You don't want to break up any roots. Just rub it in there all around the pot, and then you can water it in, and this will feed. You can do this maybe once a month to once every 2 months, and it'll feed your plant organically. But you do have to use like a homemade compost with vegetables and stuff like that in between, because this does give really good potassium, phosphate, and other nutrients in the soil that are beneficial, but it doesn't give, it's not a full nutrient system, so you don't want to use just earthworm castings. If you're gardening organically, using fresh homemade compost with your earthworm castings, now you're talking. You throw some blood meal, some bone meal in there. I use the fish meal, the fish bone meal or whatever it is, and that stuff seems to work really good too if I'm gardening all organically. But I do half organic and half nutrients. So we're going to go out in the garden, show you how to spread it out in the garden beds. Alright you guys, so this is my side garden. My sunflowers are opening right there. This sunflower is getting really big. And we have the rest of the garden. So we're going to put nutrients around all those peppers down there, and we're going to show you how we do that. Okay, so we're down by the pepper side, which we have a nice pretty sunflower right up here, getting nice and big. We put some earthworm castings on her, and she opened up first. So what we need to do is, I'm going to wait to put some around that part because there's nothing there yet. I put some around her base, but we topped off on these peppers as well, and I didn't do too much because I wanted to show you guys basically how we do that. And since I did just that little bit, look at this big one pepper plant in the front. This is one pepper, you guys, and it's getting big. We got lots of growth on it, lots of buds, lots of peppers we're gonna get, and she's really green. Earthworm castings also prevent disease, so I just read that they prevent disease and stuff like that as well. We have a nice pepper on this one right here, which is actually ready to be picked. These California Wonder peppers produce really young, Let me get a hold of this camera. They produce really young, and this pepper's ready. So we're gonna cut this pepper today. You can see once it gets the size of your hand, these California Wonders, you can cut it. And I'm gonna cut it right off at that point. I don't wanna pull it because then you can damage that whole plant. So what you wanna do is take a scoop, and you cannot add too much earthworm castings in your garden. They are just natural. They're not gonna hurt the environment. They're not gonna hurt your plant. You just can't overdo it with them. The only thing with that is you're wasting it at that point, you know, so just go in. You don't want to disturb too much around the roots, and look how much darker this is around this pepper plant. It's gonna feed it. We got some nice rain last night. For the past couple of days, it's been rain, so I'm gonna have to stabilize my pH a little bit. We'll do a video on doing that so you guys can see how I drop the pH down for my plants, because pH is so important to getting your peppers healthy and getting your produce healthy. Yes, you need to feed with nutrients and stuff like that, but you know, you have to make sure that they also don't have an alkaline soil too much. Alkalines above a 7. 7's neutral, and then 6, between a 6 and a 7 is where I usually keep my peppers, my tomatoes, my eggplant. Tomatoes like to be at a 6. So that's good for them. And we're just going to put a little teaspoon, tablespoon, 2 tablespoons out here if you got a big garden bed, or you can just fill up a quarter of a pot like this and put it around there. And you know you're good to go when you see that nice, dark, rich soil compared to what we had already. Now, I have a lot of perlite in here because I reuse my soil. So that means I have to add a lot of organic matter in here with my earthworm castings. We're going to get some raised garden bed mix because we're getting into the summer now. And it just, you know, it really helps to keep the moisture in my soil. We're feeding these zinnias organically and with some bloom. And look how pretty they're getting. Look at her pretty bloom on there. We're getting so much more blooms to pop out. She's getting really big. And we have our berries getting big, our blackberry, a blueberry growing. So we're going to go over there and show you guys how to top off the berries. Before we get to our berries, I wanted to show you that my green beans don't need much nutrients. So I gave them nutrients because they're beginning to bloom. These were the babies. We have other ones that were growing in the garden that are really big and starting to push out a lot of green beans. So at this point, I like to give them grow. You know, at the beginning stages when they're that small, like those little guys in the back, they're the same kind of green beans, Bush Blue Lake 47s and 247s I'm growing. Then you want to start feeding with grow when they're that size in the back. Once they start blooming, like this one did, once I started seeing those blooms on there, you want to start feeding organically if that's the way you want to go. I feed organically anyway, like these earthworm castings. You would definitely want to put quite a bit in here, especially in this big container. And then what you want to do that's good enough, just put them around each plant, and then eventually they'll break down in the entire container and, you know, get fed. The plants will get fed that way. You don't got to worry too much about nutrients for green beans because they really just are nitrogen, phosphorus fixers themselves. And look how much better that soil looks. Now we're going to go over to the berries and our other plants and show you how we top those off with some earthworm castings. This stuff is so good. Alright, you guys, so this blackberry right here is just pushing out so many delicious blackberries, and they're beautiful because we have our pH correct. We're testing the pH. We're making sure she has nice nutrients in that soil. We've topped off with some fresh organic earthworm casting, some fresh compost from the garden, and we fed with bloom. We're feeding with my bloom nutrients once every week right now. I'm not doing every other watering. I switched because now we're feeding organically. So we really don't need too much nutrients. I did my organic compost, and now we're doing the earthworm casting. So we really don't need too many nutrients. Maybe bend down here. I know I'm a little shaky for you guys. And just spread them out. Spread them in there. Get them in there. You can see, spread them around. And that's it. You don't want to disturb the top too much. They'll soak down in there eventually. And I noticed that this really just attracts some more worms in the garden. And worms are so great for the garden. Look how healthy those berries are getting, you guys. It's about to pour. Now we'll go over to my lovely blueberry. So this blueberry is really getting big. Look at her foliage. See all the berries on her? We still have a lot of berries that were growing on her. Still picking, but we're getting a lot of this new growth. So check out this new growth. Let me see if I can get there without shaking you guys around too much. All that nice healthy green growth is new because we've been feeding with bloom. We're getting more blooms on her, as you can see right there, the white pretty blooms, and then we're getting a lot more growth. So she's really starting to grow for us. Oh, Don't want to waste that. After she blooms, her foliage, a lot of the old foliage will die off. You'll notice as she's blooming, a lot of the old stuff will fall off, and then she'll start pushing out all these new branches. And you want to start training at this point. So cut off anything that's growing into one another, and like say this right here, you know, I'll probably cut like 1 or 2 out of these on the bottom that might be growing downward and leave the ones growing up top, because you don't want them growing into each other. At this point, you definitely want to start shaping those new leaves. You can see we have a bunch of new ones at the top too, because we've been topping off with our fresh earthworm castings, fresh compost. We're making sure our garden's fed. We have green beans growing right back there. We have a raspberry we just topped off, so she's getting nutrients, producing some side branching. We have carrots that are almost ready to get picked. And we're gonna go over to our tomatoes real quick, show you how those little guys are doing, which we're starting to flower. So I topped off with those earthworm castings. I'm feeding with Bloom now twice a week, and then I added some fresh compost down below as well. And she's looking good. Now my other tomato, that's a different story. We're getting blight already. So check her out. We have tomatoes on her, but what's starting to happen is you can see that color too. Look how much lighter these are. The foliage, the stems, compared to that green tomato that we just came from. You can see that color difference. So we're getting a lot of blight. Now blight is a fungus infection that keeps spreading and spreading throughout the garden. As you can see, we've cut a lot of foliage off on the bottom because we're getting that stuff so much. I'm trying to control it the best I can, but it likes to sprout. There's a leaf right there with it. Black spots with yellow halos around it, but our fruit still looks good. So we're just going to continue feeding. I probably have to feed and correct the pH a little more. We got more fruit back there, more blooms, and we're just going to keep topping her. I'll show you guys what we do to her. We got nice green beans here, which we'll go take a look at, and the eggplant. This is my beautiful eggplant. You can see she's really nice and healthy. We got rid of that fungus that was starting on her, which was probably some type of blight or something. And then our nice Black Beauty eggplant. I think this is Black Beauty, not long standing. You can see she's getting really nice and big. She's nice and purple, and she's growing really good for us. So we got to keep this soil really fertile with some nutrients and some fresh compost. If you guys need any help on anything I'm growing here individually, let me know. I'd love to do a video for you on anything you would want to know to grow or know how to grow. These are all experimenting that I've done over the years in growing. I've been growing for about 7 years now, you know, through mistakes, trial and error of myself, what not to do. I've learned just what to do, what do the plants like, you know, how to treat, when to treat my garden with neem oil for pesticides and fungus, because we know we get that a lot here in Florida, and we got to be really careful that we spray preventatively on treatments quite often. Once every 5 days, actually. I'm not even going the full 7. And you can see we got rid of all them aphids, most of the aphids on our green beans. And if I come in here for you, let me get a hold of the camera. You can see we have a lot of green beans growing, so let me bend down for you so you can see all the beautiful beans. We're getting so many beans to produce. They're getting really big, you guys. Look at all them. They're getting really nice and healthy and really long. Let's get on this side so we can show you what's happening. They're getting really big and long. And once these get really fat, once they fatten up all the way to the top, then we know they're ready to be picked. But they're not ready yet. Here's some more. My dog just scared the poop out of me. Here's some more beans. Sorry, you guys, that scared me. Here's some more. So we just need to feed at this point. We need to make sure we have some earthworm castings. I'm giving some bloom nutrients just once every 2 weeks for my beans. Once a week if I think they need it. But look, they're going nuts. So I don't think they need any nutrients. They look beautiful. That one's almost ready. You can see how it almost fattens up all the way to the top. So once you get that fat all the way up top here, you know they're ready to be picked. We're going to be picking a lot of these together too. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I'm so happy that we're starting to get produce here in the garden. We're going to keep sowing our green beans every 2 weeks so we get nice harvests every couple of weeks, so we can save the green beans and store them so we can have them over the winter when we really can't grow too many green beans because we get a frost, and these green beans really don't like the frost outside. You want to pick them, leave that top part on, and then you can pick them, or you can cut them with a scissor. and they'll be really nice and healthy for you. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, if you need any help, I'm always here. I love what I do, and I appreciate you stopping by the garden. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.